this quarter going to be dealing with about a lot of miracles that Jesus done, and we have studied about a lot of them, but we just hear them again about the miracles.
Is all of them?
All what? All the miracles? No, I don't think so. It's just about some of them. And so, on page number 5, that's where we'll begin. You know, it even miracles and things that he did and not even mentioned. In the book of John says that. And so that's why you give me.
Well, now, the first one you turned that water to wine. You can't do it. I can't.
No, I can't none of us do that.
Oh,
But this was on this beginning there, and lesson 1, a wedding at Cana. So this was one of the first miracles that he did, Jesus did, and we're going to be in the book of John, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. But before we get there, you know, this was Jesus was coming on the scene in chapter 1, you know, where that how he appeared. In verse 1, it tells us about in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It's going to go on down through. I'm not going to hit on everything, but we know about John the Baptist. He was a forerunner for Jesus Christ, and he came to make the way right straight for him. Jesus was before him, but he came after Jesus, which he's going to be telling the Pharisees. They had sent some people there to question him, John, about the middle of that chapter. And so, and he explained to them that, well, this person was before me, and also after me, you know, and so he went on to let them know, and they wanted to know. Well, I just back up to that verse, and let's hit a few little highlights on that when John came about and that what he was going to do. Okay, so John, chapter 1 of John, it said, the Pharisee was asking John around verses number 22. Then said they unto him, art thou that we may give an answer to them that sent us? What sayest thou of thyself? John goes on to say in verse 23 of chapter 1 of John, he said, I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord, as he said to the prophet Isaiah. And they which were sent by the Pharisees, so these men were sent by the Pharisees, and they was questioning him about what was going on. And so he went on to tell them in the next few verses that, you know, that Jesus came before him, and also that he was standing there with them. And you would think all this time he's there, but they really don't know. And of course, you know, and he says that he came in verse 18. He who come after me, he'll prefer for me, whose shoes lace I am not worthy to loose. But backing up, he said, and John answered and said, I baptize with the water, but there standing one among you whom ye know not. So Jesus was standing there right then, but they didn't know. And so, you know, after reading this thing several times, I really never thought about it the way I think about it now until I was going over it last week, calling myself Friday and Saturday, getting ready for the lesson. And I read this thing, I don't tell you how many times, and I never thought about. John said, well, he's standing right here with her. I never thought of it that way, but it says that. And, you know, and every time you pick up the book and read, you can find something that you left out. It's been there all the time. But we just didn't pick up on it. I'm saying myself now. And I ain't no telling how many times I done read this whole chapter. And here it is standing right in the face, you know. But then the question will come in. Okay, we're going to go on and get started because there's a lot said here all through this thing here. It's a short chapter where we're going to be at this morning for us to study, but
You ever get to where you know it all, just kind of read again.
that's right. You'll find out you didn't know what you thought you knew.
Exactly.
And you know, a lot of times, you know, we look at things so many times, and sometimes too, it the kind of mindset you got too. And a lot of times, your mindset got a lot to do with how you learn things. You know, and sometimes it's just like a child. You can tell a child certain things, but he's just not ready yet. You know, he's not mature enough to understand and see it. And adults are too when they're the babe in Christ. And as they study, they learn more. But as we get older, we understand more because we are older adults, and we're teaching the children. And we done went through things, and we should be able to understand things a little better. And you know, I know I had a guy used to tell me, I used to work with Wiley. I started working with Wiley right after I got out of high school. And he used to say, oh, young fella, you don't know what you're talking about a lot of stuff. and come to find out I really did. You know, I'm serious, I really didn't, but I thought I did. But after about 20 years, I found out he knew a little bit more than I thought he knew. So, but anyway, we started working. I think I might have been out of high school almost a year. And I think I met him when I was 18 years old. And so that was my first year out of high school. But anyway, I've been knowing him ever since that time. But anyway, going back to the lesson, chapter 2, verse 1, it says, on the third day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Now, both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. And when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, they have no wine. We'll start right here right now. But they was invited to a wedding. Now, is there anything about going to weddings or any kind of little celebration or anything? No, there ain't nothing wrong with going to a wedding. You want to go to a wedding, ain't nothing wrong with going to a wedding. There ain't nothing wrong with going to a little party. You know, somebody invite you to a party if you ain't drinking and cutting up. You know, ain't nothing wrong with going to some kind of event. It's what you do when you're at the event. Or if the event's set up for something wicked, well, no, you might not all attend. But just going to little events or neighborhood events or gathering, nothing wrong with that.
How you carry yourself wherever you are.
Oh yeah, that's true too. But some things you might not want to even go to. Right. You know, but you're right. It's how you carry yourself when you're there. But some things, if people invite me to it, I don't even go. Because I feel like that maybe I shouldn't be in that situation or shouldn't be part of that. You know. But,
Why?
go ahead.
No, I have a coworker, it's quiet. And he had picked up some habits from his Scottish ancestors.
Uh-huh.
And a guy that was atheist told me, he said, well, I told him, I said, well, I think I'll go to it. And he said, well, you don't want to go to that. I said, why? He said, it's a drug party. I mean, that's what they do.
Get drunk.
So he knew he was atheist.
Right. Well, he was warning you that's what type of party was going to be. But you didn't understand what type of party was going to
No,
be.
I didn't understand it. He told you.
Right.
But he had enough respect for you to know you didn't want to be in that position, and that speaks well of your
Right.
dating
And yeah, I was going to
testimony.
say, you went well enough that he was an atheist
Mm-hmm.
and didn't want you there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's why I said depending on what kind of parties it is or what kind of gathering that it is, you might not want to attend. And so I even, as a young man, I was invited to a party one time. We'll get back on the lesson. To a party where you go and you have wife and husband swap. And I told my wife at that time, I ain't going to no party like that. Well, she said, well, there's some of my friends invited. She said, we ain't got to do what they do. I said, well, I ain't going. I said, neither are you. You know, why would, you know, they said you had to make a choice about some kind of party. you know, I thought, I'm not going to that kind of thing. And I think, and neither are you, you know, you're not going. She got mad, she wanted to go, but anyway, but she didn't go. But why would you want to go to something like that? You already know that what they're going to be doing. You know, that's so, don't even go. Okay, so there's a wedding, Jesus was invited, and his mother was there, and some of his disciples were there, invited to the wedding also. And we know this about some of the first miracles that were done, that was recorded, that they ran out of wine at the wedding. And his mother came running to, well, I'll let somebody, would you read verse 4 and 5, please, someone else?
Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says to you, do it."
Okay. Now, I wonder, you know, we know who Jesus was, but, and I was happening flipping through the channels on TV and reading, and some minister was talking about this when Jesus spoke and said to his mother, "Woman," you know, like disrespecting your mother. But, you know, he wasn't, but he was just speaking with authority. He was the kind of, we know he had all authority. Well, that is his mother, but he still had authority. And so, and why did he say that? I can't tell you that. I'm not going to try to explain it, because I don't know. But I do know he had authority or whatever. But he said,
I think it was a personal relationship between him and her, and at that point she knew who he was, and he knew who he was, and he knew why he was there, you know, and he knew his mission, and he
Right.
knew that she knew his mission.
but you know, to me, at this saying, they're like, he really didn't want to be bothered with this.
Yeah, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I think they were talking, and I said, can you
Yeah.
imagine saying you're the wrong woman?
Yeah,
Well, like I said,
yeah, go.
unless you understand the word
Yeah,
and the statement of the time, like I said, they say it's of respect, and I look in my Bible, it says word, you, it says it's of respect.
mm-hmm.
You think about when you went to the temple, and he says, I'm about my Father's business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, did you not know it? This is what I'm here to do. You know? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, and I read through the comment, you know, it also mentioned about that respect thing as we go through the book, we study, but it's, Jesus, he was focused on a mission when he came down here, to do what his Father sent him to do. And it was like, his mind was set on doing it, he wasn't going to let nobody stop him, deter him off from what he was going to do, and what he was supposed to do. Because we know he had distraction, but it still never stopped him. Whatever his Father said for him to do and whatever prophesied before, it still happened the way that it was supposed to happen. Okay?
I
Go
only
ahead.
found one other instance that he didn't call anybody woman.
Sir?
Everybody else he called a woman too, except for one instance.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one instance I've ever found that he did not use the term woman, and that was the woman with the baby, he called her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, what disrespect.
Yeah, and it could have been the way they addressed people back then, yeah.
That's how they talk, but that's the only, I found it interesting, that's the
Yeah.
only instance that he actually called somebody something besides woman.
Okay.
He called her daughter.
Okay. All right. He goes on, woman, what does your concern have to do with me? What it got to do with me? You know, you be old saying, what this got to do with me? But they had ran out of wine. And he let her know that, hey, my hour has not come, is not yet come. And so he was stressing that to her. It's not time. He goes on. His mother said to the servant, whatever he says to you, do it. So she did like a lot of other mothers. Whatever he said, do it. and him having the authority, and she letting everybody else know, he's the one, do what he says do.
That means if he leaves the water in the pot, leave the water in the pot, or do whatever he says to do.
That's right. He's the one, pretty much now, I'm putting in a frame of mind. A lot of the people at the wedding, other than the disciples and the mother, probably didn't know originally who he is at that time, or what his authority was. But we know the miracle was done that folks might believe and conform the word. And so, I won't get before. Any other question? Comment? Okay. Verse 6. Now, there were set 6 water pots of stone according to the manner of the purification of the Jews, containing 20 or 30 gallons apiece. Jesus said to them, fill the water pot with water. And they filled them to the brim. Or they fill them all the way up. Okay, so the pot that they set out was according to the Jew purification. So at this time, I don't know what Jew purification is. You know, I tried to look that up, but I didn't know. Maybe someone else knew. Maybe those water pots had already been set out with water in there for a certain period of time, or however what the purification would be. And but he did. They did according to as he said. Okay, go ahead, Colin.
I have a commentary in my Bible. The 6 water pots were normally used for ceremonial washing. When full, the pots would hold 20 to 30 gallons. According to Jews' ceremonial law, people became symbolically unclean by touching objects of everyday life. Before eating, the Jews would pour water over their hands to cleanse themselves of any bad influences associated with that which they had touched. So what it's saying is these were clean. There wasn't any wine in them already. They were clean pots.
Okay, so and so they were filled to the brim. So with the question that I really didn't find, I was looking for it. You know, you said these pots were used, they would wash their hands or whatever, but they had to be cleansed beforehand, correct? According to some kind of way to purification.
Weren't used in everyday life, and weren't used for other purposes in the one.
They were for ceremonial purposes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Verses 8 and 9. Someone take those.
And he said to them, draw some water out and take it to the master of the feast. And they took it. When the master of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and did not know where it came from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called to the bridegroom, and he said to him, every man at the beginning sets out the good wine, and when the guests have well drunk, then the inferior. You have kept the good wine until now.
Okay. So
Not only did Jesus turn it into wine, he turned it into wine that was way better than what they had started out.
mm-hmm. Pure, good, fresh, and so even the governor who up there, the man who was in charge, he realized that. And you know, usually they would set the good wine out first, but he said, "Hey, you done held back to the people who got drunken." If you read the scripture, and now you're putting out the good wine, you know. So he said, "Well, hey, normally this is not the way it's done, but you have done it this way." Any questions or comments? Okay,
I
brother.
think it's significant that the water was the first miracle because the water baptism is our first miracle. I mean, that's our cleansing.
Mhm.
And so to me, it would be most appropriate that his changing of the water to the wine is very significant of being his first miracle. That supports to me water baptism. It's a change. It's the first change he ever made.
Okay, Brother Hickman.
It didn't say drunken, it said they're drunk.
Drunk.
They're in the past. So
Right.
it's
Not-
not really indicating they're intoxicated, it's just saying that they had consumed.
Mhm.
When you said, when they were well drunk, they were,
Full.
they consumed plenty.
Mhm.
Like you have an occasion, people do it, like you have fellowship.
Mhm. Right.
Sometimes consume,
I
how we
kind
need, sometimes consume more than we need.
of look at things like this as like Thanksgiving. You always have a big meal at Thanksgiving at lunch. Come supper time, I'm not very hungry for the food that I ate at lunch. That was real good. Come supper time, it's not that good no more because I done ate too much. This was not alcoholic wine,
Yeah.
this was grape juice. And they
It's
were
more of a
well
first
drunk.
impressions thing.
They were been eating for several days, so the food wasn't no good. It's kind of like, to me, at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Come Friday, that turkey's not good anymore. You know, it don't taste as good as it did on Thursday afternoon. So, I mean, it's not that the turkey's bad.
Yeah.
You didn't have
It's
enough.
not- had enough.
Yeah.
So they've had enough food, drink, that the drunk is not intoxicated.
But we know the wine
Full.
that he made anyway was not intoxicated, didn't have no alcohol and stuff in it. But we know because when he make it, it's fresh, you know, and we read what it talk about when it turned upright and red, don't drink it. So that means it'll get fermented, and this kind of stuff, it's just like when we drink. It's not fermented
It was pure grape juice.
here.
And as time went on, they would water the grape juice down.
Mhm.
It wasn't good anymore because you done drank so much. Grape juice, it wasn't no good, same as turkey to me.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people use this to justify drinking because it's kind of a, I forget what the word I'm looking for, but it's, he justified, if it's what if they say he justified drinking here, but then, because they're all drunk, and he gives them more, 120 gallons more, you know, alcohol, and then later on, he condemns them for being alcoholics.
That don't make sense.
Hypocrite, you know, kind of hypocritical there. So it can't be alcohol.
Right. So it's so true. You can take so much in, you don't want anymore, even though it's good. And so, and which another thing, we supposed to know when to stop too, not be a glutton, gorge ourselves in it, you know. But any other question or comment? Good points y'all brought out. Okay. So, 11. The beginning of the signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and manifest his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So, you know, like I said in the beginning, doing this stuff, and when you see someone could do stuff like that, you will believe if you don't believe, because this is something that you hadn't saw before. And you know, a lot of people say, I can do this, I can do that, and you want to see them do it. Jesus didn't go around bragging on what he can do and stuff like that. He just did things that they could see, and they was amazed when he did it, because things like this had never been done before. Okay, verse 12. After this, he sent down to Capernaum. He went down to Capernaum. His mother, his brother, and his disciples, and they did not stay there many days. So they didn't tarry there long. Any question to come in? And one of the most famous, after we get finished with these few verses, it goes down to talk about when they were in the temple, defiling the temple. and he whipped them out of the temple, you know. But any question or comment before we go any further? We'll hit on a few little verses on the beneath, and that'll be it for today. Okay, so if you have your Bible, we're going to do a little reading on down, a little piece. So at verses number 13, he goes on and said, and the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem and found in the temple those that sold oxen, sheep, and doves, and changers of money sitting, and when he had made a scourge of small cord, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers of money and overthrew the table. So when he saw what was going on, not only did he turn over the money changers and all that stuff there, he drove the animals out too. And he made him a scorn, which is back during that time they to me, my friend might be something like a little small whip, and he drove them out. And because he didn't like what they were doing to any father's house. And even today, like when things go on in father's house, which is where we are at today, this is just a building that Christ is in here with us. And when we come to worship him, we're supposed to do it decently in order. And we're not supposed to be doing things in here that he don't approve of. And so a lot of people feel like, well, you can do anything for the cause of Christ. You know, they'll sit at the door and start charging you money to come in the door. And, you know, I have been places that they have done that to things, you know, when they say they come in to worship. Any question coming?
People have garage sales in the church parking lot.
And in the church too.
Yeah. Okay, Colin?
One of my favorite things about this is verse 15. He didn't go pick one up, or this whip, this skirt. He didn't pick one up. He made it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're talking about what it is, you know, it's got links of leather or whatever it had on it. It took him a little while to make this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he did this
Quickly.
haphazardly or quickly. This was, he took his time.
Yeah. It's like you sitting there, you seeing what's going on, you go to work.
Yeah.
You know, like a mother or father see a child doing something, they won't say nothing. They already know this. Well, I just go get the belt, you know, or whatever they're gonna do, and all. Then they come up on. Okay. Will someone read 16, 17 of that chapter, if you don't mind?
He said to those who sold doves, take these things away. Do not make my father's house a house of merchandise. Then his disciples remembered that it was written, zeal for your house has eaten me up.
Okay. So, a lot of people will say, well, that was mean and cruel. But is that mean and cruel, what he done? You know?
One thing I think about is the temple at that time had far more significance than this building does right now. So it seems to me the temple was a holy place. And, you know, the church today is Christ. It's not this building. There's nothing holy about the wood that is made up in this building. Whereas back then it was. There was more significance to the building itself.
But that was considered a sacred place.
What he's saying is that this has no significance and you can use it for whatever you want to.
No, I don't think he said that. I don't think he said that.
What it sounded like.
You know, you don't want to you wouldn't want to use the building, it would have a detriment on the reputation of the church. If
It's
this
been
building
set
was
aside
used
for
a-
worship
Mhm.
of Jesus.
If it was used for a bar on Saturday night and the church on Sunday morning.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't want to take, even though it's just a place of worship, but you wouldn't want to take this place we come in and worship and use it, like I said, like a nightclub on Saturday night. We here on Sunday morning worshiping Christ, and you know, you wouldn't want to do that because of the perception that you'll get from the neighborhood people and everything. So this would be something different. Well, we know it's just a building. You know, he don't dwell in the building, he dwells in us as a people. But you don't want to put yourself in a position or where you would be looked upon as a bad place.
Oh, I know that, but that's just the way it sounded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comment? Would you ring that bell? I think about that bell ring. Get the time. 10 o'clock. Is there any other question or comment? So we had to look at these things and put them in the perspective that Jesus would have them to put them in, and how we would even our own life, you know, that how Jesus would have us to be. You know, we shouldn't do things and say things or whatever that would have this after being a member of his church, to be out in the neighborhood and say, well, he just a hypocrite, or she just a hypocrite. They just go to church on Sunday, but they do everything else all through the week. You know, we shouldn't want it to be that way.
The money changers are using it to make money. They're
To line their
doing it
pocket.
for themselves and not for the purpose of worship.
They were taking advantage of the fact that the temple was crowded
Yes.
with out of
So
town.
everybody coming in, you know.
With out of town from Passover,
Mhm.
and they were taking the opportunity of, hey, there can be a lot of traffic through there.
We can make money.
They were using it for foot traffic. That's the reason why the animals were there, for sacrifices, so people would come in
And
after
buy.
traveling a long way. Instead of bringing animals with them, they would buy them there. But instead of buying them for whatever it should have cost, they were charging them way too much money. The temple was also part of government, part of everything else. So these people were greedy and bending people over the barrel. So Jesus realized these people were not doing it for the right reason. They were doing it for themselves and not for the purpose of God the Father.
And that's why he made scorns.
And that's why he got mad. Yes.
You know, the question coming.
Now, this also speaks to the physique of Jesus, too. First off, he took time to make a whip. He was angry, he took time to make a whip, so he didn't act on impulse.
Didn't go out and rage.
But then he goes and he drives all these people out. Now, if you have a place of business and somebody comes in there and starts ransacking your business, ain't you going to attack them and try to stop that? They did not stop him. So you see these pictures of this old skinny, frail Jesus. Jesus was not, he was a carpenter. He was, I'm sure when he raised his arms up, he had some hammers on him, if you want to say. I'm sure he was very well built. It's called a hard working, being a carpenter in those days. So he wasn't just a little wimpy guy to run all these people out and overturn their tables. So you see all these pictures. That's not the Jesus I read about in this Bible. He turned their tables over and he destroyed their place of business and ran them out. And they did not stop him.
I don't know anybody who wants to go against a good man with a whip.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to win.
Bring that again, that's about it. But anyway, it's we got to look at these things too. That Jesus, even a lot of times, the pictures and stuff that are portrayed today is not according to the way the reading of the Bible say he is. You know, so we'll look at that.